are live. Hello, everyone. Today we have yet more. I was phrasing that so weird. It's a Saturday morning. Today we have more California State Fair baking prep for the competition that I've entered. And we're going to make some apple compote. I just washed my apples. I like to use Granny Smith when I'm doing any kind of baking stuff because they have much more of like that kind of tart, almost bitterness to them. So it helps to balance out sweetness really well. Okay. So, where did you go? Looking for my peeler. It's not in its usual spot. Where did you go, sneaky? Maybe somebody moved it. It's usually in the same spot. How strange. Might have to use a different peeler today. Let's see. I have this like old school one. I'm not a fan of using it, but I guess we can do that for today. How weird. Okay. Hello, thank you for joining. Okay, let me get the sugars out as well. So for this, we got granulated sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon. Let me get my recipe. Okay, like I mentioned, we have to measure everything out. Is that an apple? Yes, I am doing some apple compote for one of my baking competition components. This is for the apple pie cookies. Let's see, apple compote. I have this recipe somewhere around here in my notebook. I also need to make sure, there we go. Aha, yes, okay. And I forgot to mention brown sugar in my notes. Brown sugar I can't spell today. There we go. Okay. So, we're going to start with our apples. That'll kind of tell me how much I'm actually going to be making. No, it's a chicken. Yeah, if anybody just joining, we're making some apple compote. And it's for the apple pie cookies that I entered for the baking competition for this year. Still amazed where my peeler went. It's nowhere to be seen. Somebody moved it. Okay. It's an AK. No. Hello, thank you for joining. Okay, so I'm gonna peel some apples and chop some apples for our compote here, and I just washed them off. That's why they're sitting on a paper towel. Oh my goodness, I hate this peeler. Ugh. Hold on. Let's see. Just get my pot out. Okay. trying to see if I can find the better peeler, because it's strange. It's always in the same spot. Okay. There's like a weird mystery over here. Okay. That is the better one. That would make this so much easier. How strange. Okay, I'm gonna attempt this annoying, it's like one of those super old school peelers, and I have one that I like so much better. Let's see if I can get this one to work though. God, this one is like, it's only good for potatoes apparently. Let's see what other kind of peelers I got over here. What are you? You look fun. I'm gonna try kitchen gadgets that I haven't tried before. See if I like it better. Found this fun little doohickey. Let's see if this is a good peeler or not. I'm not sure. Nope, this was just awkward. I am stumped. I don't know where the heck that thing went. Okay. Aha, okay. Someone put it in the wrong drawer. That's what happened to it. See, this is the one. This is just a lot better than the other one that I was trying to use. Is that your home? It looks messy. You need to clean. Oh, Karen, it... Karen, your comment suits your name. And it's not messy. You're literally seeing a counter with stuff on it where I'm about to cook something, so. Okay. Oh yeah. This makes such a huge difference with this one. Like I said, someone put it in the wrong drawer, and then it was just like a little scavenger hunt for it. Oh yeah, so much better. Okay. It's a terrible mess. It should be condemned. Karen, that makes absolutely no sense. And because you're apparently just wanting to brag about yourself, we're just going to say goodbye. Goodness, I've never tried a live on Saturday. I hope that's not a common occurrence. Okay, then I just like to cut around the core, kind of square everything off. And your life ain't perfect if you have that attitude. Absolutely. Yeah, we got rid of Karen. She has been removed from the channel. We don't need her kind of negativity in life. Okay. Then I'm going to cut off like just the little excess skin pieces that I didn't get off there. Okay, and then we're just going to dice these up. And sometimes, depending on the size, I think I like to cut, we can kind of see it, cut this in half. Something like that. I'm not super precise with cutting these for the stuff, but, and then because I'm doing a dice, I'm gonna cut just in half. And if I did a brunoise, it would be like really, really tiny cuts to make super tiny dice. Okay, I'm gonna chuck it into my measuring cup here. And then for this part, I like to cut off these sides. We're gonna deal with those in a sec. Just gonna kind of, for lack of a better word, squaring everything off. I feel like that's not a totally accurate word here, but I think you get the point. And cut in half again, and this one's a little bit wider, so I'm gonna do 3 cuts on this one. This one's pretty similar to the other one, so I might just do a half cut again. I'll do 3, since it's still a little bit bigger. And then we're just going to cut across. Okay. And for these little pieces, sometimes I'll kind of like cut them in half. Make them a little bit smaller, but that's fine. That'll be a little bit too small. We'll keep that one. Where it's a little bit more wide, basically. Okay. And little bits. Little teeny tiny bits. They'll look like a little bit faster, but I always like to use all parts of the apple as much as possible. Okay, another apple. Okay, we're all caught up in the chat. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. Hope you're having a good Saturday so far. This is a bonus live. Usually I just do lives on Friday, but I'm doing some extra ones with all of the state fair prep for the baking competitions. Oh, got a little bit too close to the core there. There we go. Okay, once again, cut in half. Cut in half again. And one more time. These are pretty big apples, so I actually might not need all of them. Hello, thank you for joining. SYBA. I don't know what that means. I've seen that a couple of times. What does that mean? Just chopping some apples for anybody just joining for some apple compote. Prepping for the competitions this week. Wow, cutting apples, got it on the skill. Yeah, Kevin, I'm cutting apples, doing some prep for the State Fair baking competitions. This is apple compote, or gonna be apple compote, for the apple pie cookies that I'm making. Hello, thank you for joining. Just doing some apple prep here. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday. Okay, so I think I want to do, I think I'll do one more apple. It's going to be a little more than a double batch, but I think that's going to work. I just want to make sure I have plenty. Pretty much like a regular single batch usually works for the cookies, but I'm just making some extra here for another project at the same time. This peeler makes everything so much easier. Okay. Cut off any little green bits, little skin that I didn't get initially. Teeny tiny bit. Okay. Okay, and like I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, want to tell me what you're doing this weekend, what kind of fun stuff you got going on, let me know in the chat. Whoop. Okay. Anybody just joining? We are dicing some apples for apple compote because I'm making apple pie cookies for the baking competitions for the California State Fair. Do you have to add lemon juice to stop the browning? That is a great question. Usually that is something that you would want to do, but for the apple compote, I cook it right away. So I just pop it into the fridge, and usually that is, I find that that's good enough. So that's usually my approach to it. Just to kind of take care of it right away. Okay. So let me set this over here out of my way, and then I need to measure our apples because for the competitions, we have to include an ingredient card organized in the amounts that everything, like, apples are always going to be the most component of the apple compote. So I have to put that first and then measure everything out and say, what the next highest ingredient is. It's not a recipe card, but that's how they want their ingredient list to go. Okay, so I have just over, this is liquid measuring, but over 4 cups of apples. we got 637 grams. 637. Okay. And because we have about 2 cups, then we are going to want to measure out obviously our brown sugar and our granulated sugar to go with all of that. So, oh, and I need my cornstarch too. Okay, and I'm gonna set the apples in the fridge until I'm ready to use them. Which should be like just a minute. It's not gonna be very long. Okay, and then like I said, I like to add a little bit of brown sugar. I think this is all gonna be too heavy, so I need to do a different bowl. Can you use other apples besides Granny Smith? Absolutely. You can definitely use pretty much whatever apples you want. Just personally for me, I like to use Granny Smith to balance out the sweetness with whatever I'm pairing it with. So like this is going to be a cookie mixed with cookie stuff. So it'll just like that kind of really tart apple helps to balance out stuff better, but you can absolutely use other apples if you prefer. Okay, so let's see. We're going to do, forgot that container of water was as full as it is. I feel like this morning is just a little bit hectic. Trying to do as much prep as possible before next week, because obviously I can't bake off anything before the actual like day before the competition, because I want it to be as fresh as possible, but we're doing all of this prep in the meantime. Okay, so for this I'm going to do hold up. Yeah, okay. So 1/4 cup plus a couple tablespoons. So for our granulated sugar, we're going to, had a little fuzzy from the drying dishcloth. Got a 1/4 cup here. Usually I level it out with a knife, but I'm gonna be a little bit extra generous because I have a little extra apple today. Okay, and then we're gonna need another 1/4 cup for our slurry. Yeah, okay, so, and then we're gonna do 2 extra tablespoons of this. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna do a little extra brown sugar. I think that's what I did the very first time. I've only made these cookies one time technically, but they were so good that people were like, you have to enter these. Okay, so 55 grams for the initial granulated sugar. And then we're going to tare that. Hi, thanks so much for joining. Where are you from? I am from California. How about you? So for this compote, I'm doing 50-50 brown sugar and granulated sugar for this initial sugar that we're going to put in the pot. And then we have just granulated sugar for the cornstarch slurry. to be, look, where's my plus button? We're just going to do a comma for our granulated sugar. I'm from PA, Pennsylvania. Nice. I'm so happy to have you join again. Freg, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. But it's really good to see you again. I'm so glad that you're able to join today. Okay, so we have our sugars, our initial sugars. Oh, actually, I forgot. We got to tear that and do our cinnamon. Tear. And gonna get a teaspoon for the cinnamon. Let's see, are you a pastry chef? I am not. I actually just learned by watching videos, looking up recipes, attending baking classes, like virtual baking classes. Yep, you're right. Okay, good. I don't like saying people's names wrong. Okay, so we got a couple teaspoons of cinnamon, and that's just 3 grams. Okay. Push those to the side. And then this is our initial stuff that we're going to put in the pot. We got to measure out our water as well. Let's measure out our cornstarch slurry stuff really quick. So we've got a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. And as expected, same amount, 55 grams. C5. Oh, I also forgot to write down cornstarch. Cornstarch. Anybody just joining that has not heard me give a mini spiel, I have to measure out everything that I'm putting in here because of the ingredient list that they want provided. They want it organized in a very specific way. Okay, so because we're doing basically a double batch, we're going to do the 1/4 cup of sugar, and then I'm going to do 4 tablespoons, which is a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. What is the dessert that you're making called? This is apple compote. So this is, you know, like a kind of like an apple pie filling type situation, but I'm going to mix it into cookie dough, and that's going to be our apple pie cookie. Okay, so I just tared the scale, so now I'm just measuring out our cornstarch. That's 2 more. Yeah, yes, these cookies turned out so well that everybody was just like, you need to enter these. And 1 more tablespoon. There we go. Oh, it works out to about 10 grams per tablespoon. That's cool. Okay, so 40 grams. Set that to the side. Okay, and then, hello, thank you for joining. Happy Saturday. Hope everybody's having a good weekend so far. I need this. So, I need 4 tablespoons total, so I have these 2 little shot glass measures that I'm going to do for the water. $30. Oh, that's good. Even. Hello, hello again. Okay, we got 2 tablespoons again coming right here. Should be the same. This one says 29. Oh, I didn't go quite to the meniscus. E. Ha, okay. So we got 60 grams of water specifically for a cornstarch slurry. We need a little bit more water besides that. Let's make a note so I don't forget. 30 and put a little comma because we're going to have a little bit more water. Ugh, excuse me. I feel like my allergies have been just going crazy this week for some reason. Okay. So, I use a little bit less water than typical. Like the initial recipe that I kind of adapted, but I'm going to add a little bit more water this time. So usually I'd add like half a cup for a double batch, but I think I want to add just a smidge more today. It's like not even an ounce. Are you going to add vanilla to it? I am not. I add vanilla to the cookie dough. So with this, I keep it pretty simple where it's just cinnamon, apples, and like the sugar. And then, yeah, I don't know that I've actually seen vanilla added to apple compote before. But because it's going to be in my cookie dough, then I'm going to save it for that. Okay, so I am going to add all of my stuff to my pot. So adding all of our sugars and cinnamon. Well, not all the sugars. We have our separate cornstarch slurry ingredients. Get all the good cinnamon in there. Okay, and then we're going to turn this on. Dump the water. Oh wait, hold on. I think I might have done that wrong. Darn it, I'm just gonna have to reweigh. Thought I was being all clever. I'm gonna make the excuse that it's Saturday. My brain is just not working with me at the moment. I'm gonna put this over a medium high heat. And then I'm just gonna weigh this really quick. Approximately how much I added. See, is that enough? Yeah, it's close. Okay. 140, so about 140 grams. 140, so that's the total for our water. Okay. Cool. I think I'm all caught up in the chat. Hello, thank you for joining. Okay, and then for our cornstarch slurry, while that initial stuff is cooking on the stove, I'm gonna grab a little baby whisk. We're gonna mix our cornstarch and granulated sugar together. So what you wanna do is have an even amount. So we have a 1/4 cup of each cornstarch and granulated sugar here, as well as a 1/4 cup of water. And this is gonna be what's gonna like thicken our mixture. Now we can add our water. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Just making sure that everything is all mixed together. I found a little clump of cornstarch in the bottom. Okay. Get this measuring stuff out of here. Okay. Do a little cleanup here, and then I'll get my little setup for bringing my saucepan over here. Check and see how we're doing. We're looking pretty good. I have to go, but good luck. Thank you so much. Like I mentioned, I will be making sure to update you guys about how things are going and how the competitions turn out overall. But thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a great weekend. Okay. So, let's see, what else? What else can we measure out today as well? Maybe a little more cake and cookie components, but we'll see. Okay, so I have you plugged in, so I can't bring you over to the stove right now. All right, I'm gonna turn it up a little bit more. It's very cinnamony over here. That's even a word, cinnamony. I can't even say it fully. But it smells very good in here right now. Let me see. Hold on. See if I can unwrap my charger here. Aha, success. Okay. Let's see, that's what we're looking for right there. Nice and bubbly, nice and hot. All the sugar is completely dissolved, was our main thing that we want to see. It's all dissolved in the water. So we can grab our slurry and pour that in there. Trying to scrape out some excess. Don't want to waste anything. Okay. I'm just going to keep stirring this a little bit. And basically with the cornstarch, you want to have it on high enough of a heat where it activates the cornstarch and it'll thicken and it actually turns it into basically a gel. So it goes from this kind of, it turned it like white for a second, then once it combined with the cinnamon, it's like this kind of brown, like you can't see through this mixture at all. But once the cornstarch activates, then it's going to turn into a gel that's going to coat the apples. You can kind of see it already happening here. Okay, and usually I like to let it go for a little bit longer first, but I'm actually going to turn this down just a little bit. And we're going to add our, oh, come at me. We're going to add our apples. Because because I've actually added it when the mixture is like a little bit too thick, and then it's a little bit harder to work with. So let me switch over to a different spoon here instead of a whisk. Try to get all that mixture here. Okay, and then we're gonna grab our apples. And someone asked about browning earlier. So see, I popped them in the fridge, so they all still look really good. Okay, let's bring it a little closer here. And we're gonna mix our, what is it even called at this point? It's like sugar cinnamon mixture with our apples. And we're gonna let this cook down. It's gonna cook down for the amount, probably like 20 minutes or so. We wanna make sure that they cook down so they're nice and cooked. Sometimes I like to leave them a little bit crunchy, but for the cookies, I like to make sure it's cooked all the way. Oop. A piece of apple popped out there. Okay, so all the apples are now coated in our mixture. And I'm gonna have to stir this pretty regularly, but basically want to let those apples, like I said, just cook down, soften, and that'll take a little while. So I'll put this back on the heat, kind of stir periodically, but measure out some stuff in the meantime. Let's see. Just gonna scooch this to the side. I'm going to measure out some components for our pastry cream. So I'm making a caramel pastry cream. And I want to make sure, should bring up the recipe first. And I have shared this pastry cream before. It also is one of the recipes on my blog. And I think I shared a general like how to make pastry cream and then how to like customize it to do chocolate, to do caramel. Caramel is one of my absolute favorites. So let's see. I don't see any new things in the chat. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Giving the apples a quick stir. Okay. So we're going to do just a regular batch of our caramel pastry cream. So that means that we're going to have a half cup of sugar. See where my little containers out here. That's too much. Let's see, we need a smaller container. Smaller. This should work. Okay, so we need that, and then cornstarch, definitely. Cornstarch isn't going to be a ton, so I'll have these little itty bitty containers. Okay, so we got our scale back out, and we're going to measure out half a cup of granulated sugar. Okay, so it's 100 grams, which makes sense because that should be about a half a cup. Where's our pastry cream? Ah, there you are. So granulated sugar, we got 100 grams. And we're gonna do cornstarch next. But I'm gonna measure out a little bit extra because I'm doing an extra project with some pastry cream. So since I have this out anyway, okay. Let's close up our container here. And I'm also gonna give the apples another stir. Okay. So of course the apples are still very much raw. It's gonna take a little while, like I mentioned, but you can tell that they are starting to cook down just a little bit. So next, let's do, oh, I need to clean my tablespoon here. And for our pastry cream, we have, for one batch, it's going to be 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, which, as we discovered, we measured a little bit ago, should be about 10 grams per tablespoon of cornstarch. At least for my measurement that I have. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then one more. You guys do anything fun for your weekend? Let me know. Hope it's not too hot where you are. It's not horrible right now, and that's actually, I don't want to jinx this, but it's supposed to be cooler this week. Okay, so I have my extra stuff measured out. We got 29 grams of cornstarch for this. Okay, make a note of that so I don't forget. 29 grams. And we're also going to check on our apples one more time. Well, not one more time, but another time of checking our apples and giving it a good stir. Okay, you can definitely tell they're starting to soften up a little more. Let me show you. That's what our apples are looking like. I can just tell by stirring that they're a little less raw now, getting a little bit cooked down. So just kind of keep this going for, I would say probably at least another 10 minutes. Like I said, because it is a double batch, it'll take a little bit longer even. Okay, and I think I don't need this stuff at the moment. Okay. So we have our, there's like half the ingredients that can't totally be measured out ahead of time. They could be, but they're going to be in the fridge. Because the main component of pastry cream is whole milk. So we got 2 cups of whole milk, and that's the bulk of what this is. We could do salt, but it's very small amounts. Okay. Continue to stir those apples a little more frequently now. Hello, thank you for joining. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Okay, let's measure out our salt, which for a single batch is going to be about 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to put it with the cornstarch. You can hear the apples like screeching behind me as they cook a little bit. Two grams of our salts. There you are. Okay. So we've got our stuff measured out. I just need to grab a little bit later my handy dandy tape and Sharpie to label this. Okay, so those are for our pastry cream. Okay, let's go check on our apples together. I don't know if you can hear that. It's getting a little bit stuck on the bottom, so that's another reason to stir. But also, as the apples cook down a little bit, they should release a little more moisture. It's getting very stuck on the bottom today. Okay. Like I said, just continue to cook this down for a little while longer. I think it's been on here for probably about 10 minutes at this point, and we'll do another 10-ish minutes or so. Hello, thank you for joining. Hope you're having a good day. Today we're making some apple compote. Again, there's certain things I can't make too far ahead of time for the competitions, like pretty much any of the baking, doing the baking itself. But all of these components I'm getting done ahead of time to make it a little less stressful, because last year I waited until making everything as fresh as possible, and it's like there's some things that could have been made ahead of time. So I learned my lesson last year, and I am very excited with the progress that we've made so far. We've done a bunch of prep on lives this week. I think this is our 3rd live this week, doing prep for the baking competitions. Okay. Continue to cook that down for, like I said, a little bit longer. And then let me check my list and see what else I have to measure out that I can do ahead of time. Um, let's see, I can measure out a little bit of like baking powder, baking soda, salt, all that kind of stuff. We'll hesitant to mix the containers though. I don't know, we have a good amount of stuff already measured out for our components. Just try to scrape this down as much as possible as well. It smells so good in here. All that lovely cinnamon. Oh, the spoon. There we go. Okay. Let that continue to cook down a little bit more. Bring it back over here. Let's see. Okay, let's measure out. I'm starting again because the apples just keep talking to me. All right, then I got my containers ready. I just use some nice airtight plastic containers. And I'm splitting it into two containers because it's for two different projects. Half of it is going to be for one project, half of it is, of course, for the baking competitions. But I figured since I'm already doing it I need to do it twice, then might as well just do a full double batch. So I just use these containers with a nice tight lid. And for the amount that I'll be using for the cookies, as you'll see in the shorts video that I'll make, it'll be basically one of these containers full and add it to the cookie dough. Okay. I think our compote's doing pretty good. I think it's going to be close. I think just a few more minutes and it'll be good. And as a little bonus for being on live, let me show you. So of course this will be in the other video, but because you guys are here on live today on this lovely Saturday, for the cookies themselves, the apples don't have a ton of flavor, especially with that cinnamon, but I wanted to add like a little more flavor. So there's these little teeny tiny Loran oils flavoring, what do they call them exactly? Super strength flavors. So you can use them for a whole variety of stuff. I decided to add them to the cookies, and I think I literally added about 3 drops of each of these. So green apple and regular apple. And it just helps kind of add a whole pop of apple flavor to help kind of enhance that part of the cookie a little bit more. So that is a fun little tidbit for you to know. Okay, check on this compote again. few more minutes, but it should be pretty close to being done. Do we have any questions in the chat today? It's Saturday. It's not my usual live day, but I decided to hop on while I was making this compote and also measuring a few things out for pastry cream and all that good stuff. Which reminds me, I'm gonna go grab my my tape really quick. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that I keep track of all of the stuff that I'm doing. So I've been using just like a little bit of Scotch tape and adding it to the containers. So I keep track of all of the stuff that I'm measuring out ahead of time. So we've got pastry cream. I don't write well on top of these containers, but it gets the point across. And this is sugar. And then this is our pastry cream. Goodness, that was awful. Pastry cream, corn starch, plus salt. Don't want to forget that I already added that. So that's how I've been measuring out everything and also keeping track of what is, you know, everything in all the different containers. So I have now 2, 4, 6, like 12 containers of stuff measured out. So that's a good way to keep track of everything. Check on our compote once again. I'm happy with this. It's been cooking for about 20 minutes on the stove. And I can see that the apples are nice and tender now. I don't want them completely like disintegrating or anything. So I'm going to divide them between, ooh, that may be something I should also measure out. Hold on. The amount of compote that I'm adding to the actual cookie dough. Haha, glad I checked that. Okay, so I'm going to try and divide this as evenly as possible. Okay, and let's put a couple of spoons in our other container to try and divide it evenly. And these plastic containers are also, of course, they have a high heat that they can tolerate, so that's why I'm able to add it to the containers right away. Okay, a little more apple. And then I let this set completely, for a little while outside of the fridge on the counter with a lid kind of covered, and then I'll put it in the fridge to completely chill before I use it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just gonna put some of this extra cinnamon mixture. So that'll add extra yummy flavor to the cookies. Okay. We're gonna say $3.75 for the amounts that, hold on, apple compote, there we go. I did make a section for it. So 375 grams will go into the actual cookies themselves. And I'll make sure to label that one. Hello, thank you for joining. Hope you're having a great Saturday. We just finished making some apple compote for the baking competitions. Okay, and we're gonna label this one. Like I said, I'll let them sit out for a while because they are still very, very hot since they just came off the stove. But that's for my other project, and this is the one that I want to label for our competitions. I think I put my Sharpie back. I did not. Where did I put you? I put it out of my way and then I just did not see it. Okay, so this is for cookies, apple compote. All right, I'm gonna let those cool for a while and then I'll go in the fridge. Yummy, I was here for your last live. How did your apple cookies turn out? Yes, thank you, Jeanette, so much for joining again. So the apple cookies, we have not made them yet because I need to bake them off like the night before, basically, so they're as fresh as possible. But we have continued getting ready for all of the different stuff. So we measured out, today mainly we're doing the apple compote because it took a while to, prep the apples and do everything. And then we also have some pastry cream ingredients measured out here. That's for the cake. So we have a good amount of stuff like measured out and everything, but yeah, the baking itself will take place basically the night before the competition to make sure that it's as fresh as possible for the judges. So that'll be Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night, I'll be baking off the cookies, both types of cookies for the cookie competition that takes place the next day. And then I'll hopefully bake off the cake also that night so that on Wednesday I can assemble the cake and it'll be ready for Thursday. So, yes, but I'm very excited because people have really, really enjoyed the apple cookies, the apple pie cookies. So I am looking forward to seeing what the judges say about them. So that'll be fun and interesting. And yeah, I think that is all we're going to do for our live today. If we have any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat before we hop off. I hope you guys do have a really great weekend. Hopefully you have some fun stuff coming up. I have hanging out with my family later today, so that's going to be fun. And it's not horribly hot at the moment, which is nice. It's actually supposed to be surprisingly nice compared to last year when I was preparing for the competitions. The day I had to bake everything was like 107 degrees. It was absolutely insane and not very fun. They sound delicious. Best of luck. I'm sure you'll do great. Thank you so much, Jeanette. Yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know what goes on with everything. The weekend after the competitions, I will be posting a series of 3 shorts videos to let you guys know how the items themselves turned out, and if I have any results by then, that I can let you know how they performed in the competition. So very excited, a little nervous, but I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I think that's everything for today. I'm not sure if I'll do any more prep lives like this ahead of the competition. I might just be, doing the last little bit of wrap up stuff and then just baking everything off and recording that. So, but I'll see. I don't know. We might do a bonus live at some point, but, any other questions or comments to pop in the chat before we hop off? I know just like pretty much all the lives this week for the prep stuff have been longer than our typical lives, but it's been a lot of fun to talk to you guys. And yeah, I feel like we have a lot of good stuff done. I'm very excited with where we are. We've made toasted coconuts and caramel and the apple compote now, and measure out a bunch of stuff for all the different items. I think there's just like the tiny little stuff like salt and baking powder, baking soda, that kind of stuff to measure out. But aside from that, we have a bunch of stuff done. So I'm really excited with where we're at. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I'm not seeing any other questions pop in the chat. So I think we're going to hop off, and I'm going to do a little bit more stuff before I go hang out with my family. But I hope that you guys have a really, really great weekend, and that I will see you very, very soon and let you guys know all the fun stuff that's happening with the competitions. But yeah, I hope you have a great day. Bye.